discuss with you kids and explain what we were listening to on the radio.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Because it's
Well, first of all, let's talk about what exactly is going on. Remember we said there are three parts of the federal government, right? You remember what they are? No, Faggy, do you remember what the three branches of the federal government are? Right, Razy. No, so the president is which branch? It's called the executive branch, right? All right, Razy. What's the other two? The other two branches.
The branch?
No, they're all together. They're the government, and the governor is the executive branch of the state, but it's like the president of the state, and the president is over all the 50 states is the executive. But there's two other branches. There's the legislative branch and the judicial branch.
I do have your phone on a camera and video.
It is. So anyway, because I'm teaching you something, and I think it's maybe other kids could learn also.
Hi.
So the three branches are the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Legislative is the Congress. They're the ones who make the laws. Executive is the president. He
can veto the laws.
He can veto the laws, that's right. But he also enforces the laws, and he has other powers as well under the Constitution. And then you have the judicial branch, or the judges, the courts. So part of their job is to interpret the laws and to apply the laws and make sure that the laws are being followed. And if someone, meaning if somebody doesn't follow the law, the judges will say that what the consequences are, whether it's they have to pay money, or if two people are fighting over a law, or what if someone says the law is wrong and doesn't follow the Constitution, because the Constitution is what gives the powers to these other branches. So that's something they call judicial review. Even though it's not mentioned in the Constitution, it became central to how the courts operate, is the idea of judicial review. So that's anyway. But remember how we have the different branches of the government. The president is elected for 4 years, right? Every 4 years we vote for the president, and we don't vote directly for the president. We vote for the electoral college. No, every 4 years, and the president can stay for 4 years twice. So 4 plus 4 is 8. So some presidents are only for 4 years, and some manage to stay for 8 years. There was one president.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
A president is 4 years?
No, who can?
Be a president?
He's president for 4 years. He has to be 35 years old to run for president.
So you're not
And he has to have been born as an American citizen. He doesn't have to be born in America. He has to be a natural citizen of the United States, meaning that he didn't become a citizen later, but he was born as a citizen. So let's say...
You mean like his mother was American?
Yeah, if his mother was American and he was born if his mother was American and he was born somewhere else, he is still American. He's born as American citizen. So he can run for president. Let's say the mother was on vacation in Canada, but he's born as an American citizen because his mother is an American citizen. Now he could try to become a Canadian citizen, but then he probably couldn't run for president of America. So because some people said Ted Cruz was born in Canada, he was running for president, but both of his parents are American citizens. So because they're American citizens, he could be the president. Some people were saying, well, he wasn't born here, that doesn't matter. Now, President Obama was born in Hawaii, which is part of America, and it was one of the states when he was born, even though it's the newest state, and he was one of the youngest presidents that we ever had. Not the youngest. The youngest was Teddy Roosevelt, and the youngest elected was John F. Kennedy. But even if it wasn't a state, it was a territory before that for, I don't know, about 80 years. 70, 80 years. So, anyway, Hawaii is an interesting state because Hawaii used to have its own monarchy. Like, before Hawaii became an American territory, it had its own queen. Not like a king or a queen from another country ruling over it, but they had their own king or queen in Hawaii. Yeah. So, but then when it became part of America, so then they couldn't have the queen anymore. Because you can't be a king or a queen of a state, because part of the Constitution says that you can't have titles of nobility in America. Like, we don't have titles of nobility. Everybody is equal. Everybody's the same. It doesn't matter. You're president, you're a senator, you're a congressman, you're a judge on the Supreme Court. You're just as much equal to everybody else. It means you have to follow the same laws like everybody else. A lot of things. So, actually, the president is not allowed to drive himself. He has to have the Secret Service drive him.
Like your cousin?
Yeah, one of my cousins drove President Bush Sr. when he visited America. He wasn't part of the Secret Service, but he has to have a chauffeur. The Secret Service has to be with him because they protect the president. Even though the Secret Service was originally invented to stop counterfeit money, fake money, during the time of President Lincoln invented the Secret Service. And I mean, it was in his time that they started the Secret Service. And one of the jobs was not to protect the president. They only added that later to the jobs of the Secret Service. But which probably would have helped President Lincoln if there was a Secret Service protecting him, you know. But anyway, we said the three branches. So how does someone become part of these three branches? So the president, they vote through the Electoral College, meaning you vote for your electors in your state, and whoever wins that state gets all of the electors in that state, except for the states that divide the electorate, which some of the states do. I think 2 of the states do that. But anyway, so it's not directly...
Okay, I have a question.
Is it about what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
What if a president isn't a president anymore?
Yeah.
And can he drive?
No, they still don't let them. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure not. I think the Secret Service still protects them. Pretty sure after they... Because, like, I saw a video where Jerry Seinfeld, who's a comedian in the 90s, he has this show where he goes and talks to different... It's called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. So that he takes, like, this old car, and they drive to a coffee shop. He went with Joel Hodgson once, you know, from Mystery Science Theater. He went with Mel Brooks.
We met him.
Yeah. So he went with different comedians to get coffee. So then he made this one episode where he went with Obama, President Obama, to get coffee. And they wouldn't let President Obama drive, and they also wouldn't let him drive to a coffee shop outside, so they had to, like, drink coffee in the White House. And that's the show they made. But, like, they were trying to drive out, and then they get to the gate, and then the Secret Service says, no, you can't leave. I don't know if it's exactly like that, because obviously the president leaves, and he even goes to, like, regular places sometimes, but when he goes, he has to have people protecting him. Or her, if we ever have a lady president. So, and not only that, but his family also has to be protected when they travel. His kids, his wife, they also have to be protected.
They want... Awesome.
they're part of the president's family, and so it could hurt the president if his family gets hurt. So anyway, the president has to be over 35 years old, and he's voted by the Electoral College, and the people in the states vote for their electors. And that's how someone becomes a president. And they can be president only twice. Yeah. So it used to be that you could be president as much as you want. But when George Washington was president, he said, I'm only going to run twice. And after that, I'm not going to run anymore. So he said, not a president, but a precedent. It sounds very similar, but it's spelled different. And it doesn't exactly sound the same either. What that means is that a lot of the things that George Washington did made like a minhag, like how we have in Judaism, in Torah, you have certain things that are a law, that's a halacha, and certain things that are minhag, right? You know what I mean? Or just a custom. Like the law is you can't eat or drink before you make Kiddush Friday night, Shabbos, right? A custom would be that we eat fish at the Shabbos meal. You could really eat whatever you want, just as long as you make Kiddush and Hamaitzi, and then you fulfilled your halacha. But it's a minhag, it's a custom to eat fish. But some people don't like fish, they don't have to eat it. It's a minhag on Shvius that we eat milchiks. But what if you get sick if you eat milchiks? So then it's a minhag. Yeah, they're lactose intolerant. Yeah. So that's the same thing. So they can't have milchiks on Shvius. So things like that. So they don't have to, because it's a minhag. It's not a halacha. You don't have to eat milchiks on Shvius. It's just a nice thing we do, and there's reasons why we do it. But you don't have to do it. There's a lot of reasons. You probably heard some, but there's a lot of other reasons.
I know one.
Yeah.
Because is the pans that they use.
Yeah.
Wasn't in kosher.
Yeah.
So they could not make like shakes and that.
Right.
And so until that.
Yeah, but how could they make milchiks in not kosher pots? There's a few answers to that. Yeah. No, but you can't have milchiks in not kosher pots either. But it maybe because it was cold. Maybe there's a few answers. So anyway, no, that's Hanukkah. But also, it's a minhag. It's not halacha. You have to eat cheese on Hanukkah. It's just a minhag. A guy is walking on the highway. You're not allowed to walk like that, and the police are going to see him. So anyway, but like it's the same thing. Hanukkah, it's a law. It's a halacha. Even it's the Rabbanan that you have to light the Hanukkah light. You have to light Hanukkah candles, but it's not a law that you have to eat milchiks or they have to eat cheese. It's just a minhag. It's not a halacha you have to eat latkes either. It's just a minhag.
You have to spin dreidel?
No, it's just a minhag to spin dreidel. It's not a halacha that you have to spin dreidel. So the same thing. The president, George Washington, made a lot of things that were like the minhag, but it was not the halacha. It was a custom. It's a precedent that he sent, but it's not the law. So one thing that he said was he's only going to be president twice. But the law was you could be as president as much as you want. But only one president ever did it. Other presidents tried, but they didn't do it. Only one president ever was president more than twice. You remember who it was? We went to his house. It was Franklin Delano. Say it louder, Razy. Roosevelt, right. So the second president, Roosevelt, was the only president who was president more than twice. He was voted as president 4 times, and he died during his 4th time as president. Very shortly after he became president the 4th time is when he died. He was sick for a long time. Really, throughout the whole time he was president, he was sick. So anyway, but because he was, people wanted to vote for him. Yeah, he died in 30 days, right? William Henry Harrison. William Henry Harrison, yeah. And, William Henry Harrison, his grandson, I think, was the president. Also, Benjamin Harrison. I think it's his grandson. So anyway, it's his son, I'm not sure. No. So anyway, maybe Benjamin Harrison was his son, I'm not sure. Who was the vice president to William Henry Harrison was John Tyler, because they had the ballot of Tippecanoe and Tyler too, right? John Tyler, I think, was the vice president under William Henry Harrison, and he became the president. He was the first, because William Henry Harrison was the first president to die in office. So that was the first time they ever had, had to have the vice president become president. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was John Tyler. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So anyway, after the time of Franklin Roosevelt, they changed the Constitution. They made an amendment to the Constitution to say that now the law is that you can only be president twice. So that's what changed, actually.
Why?
Because they saw it wasn't a good thing for someone to keep running for president forever. They set term limits, is what they call it. Now, the branch really that's before the president is the legislative branch. That's the first one that the Constitution talks about, is the legislative branch. And you have two houses of the Congress. You have the House of Representatives, which we usually call the Congress, and you have the Senate. And yeah. So how do you become part of those? Now, to be a member of the House of Representatives, I'm pretty sure you have to be 25 years old, and you have to be an American citizen, and I think you have to have lived in America for at least it's a certain number of years. I don't remember, 7 years.
Is there something from the government that it's someone 7 cannot?
No, but the thing is I don't think there's any particular age for the Supreme Court. We're going to get to that soon, because that's what we're really talking about. So the Congress, they stay in the Congress for 2 years, and then they have to run again. So every 2 years we vote for Congress, and all the Congress people in the House of Representatives have to run every 2 years if they want to keep running. If they don't want to run, then someone else has to run. And every state gets more congressmen or women based on how many people live in the state. So every state gets at least one, but some have more. The bigger the state, the more Congress people they have. So the state with the most people, congressmen and women. So the state with the most people is California. So California has the most people in the Congress. And they also have the most electoral votes. Because more people live in California than in any other state. I don't know. The next biggest state is Texas, which is also the second biggest state in size, but also the second biggest in population. It used to be New York was the third biggest. The biggest in size is Alaska, but Alaska is one of the smallest of population, so Alaska only gets one congressman. It used to be New York was the third one, now Florida is the third one, and New York is the fourth. But anyway, that's how it is. So then they run every 2 years, and they can run as much as they want. So there are people who stayed in Congress for 30 years. They run 15 times for Congress, and they keep running until they're old people, and they keep voting them in as long as people vote them in. until they decide, because that's the law. Some people want to change the law to say you can only be in Congress for a certain amount of time. The next part of the hold on, because we're almost to Middletown, and I want to get to what we're talking about. The next part of the Congress is the Senate. Now, each state, no matter how big or small it is, gets 2 senators, and the senators stay for 6 years, and they're not voted at the same time. So you never vote for 2 senators at the same time. And the original way the Constitution had it was that the senators were not voted by the people, but the people voted for their state legislatures, and the states would appoint the senators. The state government would appoint the senators. And they changed the law, I think it was in the 1920s, to say that the people will vote for the senators. So that changed it. The third part of the government is the judicial branch, and all of these branches have people under them within the branch. Like the president has a vice president and all of his cabinet, and also there's like different departments that are part of the federal government under the federal branch, the military and so forth. In the Congress, they have people working for them. And then the judicial branch, there are many different courts, federal courts, but the top court of the land is the Supreme Court. And so all the toughest cases, just like we see the story with Moshe Rabbeinu, Yisro told him, why are you listening to everything by yourself? Have other judges listen to things first, and when it's a really hard case, then they should come to you. And Moshe said that's a good idea. Moses said that's right. His father-in-law Jethro gave him good advice, and that's what he did. It's the same thing in America. You have different courts, lower courts, and if you get an answer in the lower court, you got your answer. But if you don't have an answer in the lower court, it eventually could go to the Supreme Court, and then that is the final answer. Unless you then go and make an amendment to the Constitution or change the law or whatever it is to accommodate the Supreme Court's decision. So the Supreme Court is not elected by the people directly. It's elected indirectly. What does that mean? And not only that, but a Supreme Court judge stays there for life until they decide they want to retire, they want to quit. It's not really quitting, it's retiring. Or retire is a nicer way of saying quitting, meaning like I'm ready to either go to another job or I'm too old to work anymore, and that's retiring. Or the Supreme Court judges can stay until they die. So the last Supreme Court judge who died was Judge Scalia, Justice Scalia, who was a very good judge. He helped when there was a Supreme Court case about Kiryas Yol, about where you go to school.
Really?
Not Bloomingburg, Kiryas Yol.
Yeah.
There was a Supreme Court case about it because, they have the public school where you go to get like your special programs, like you go to Jody and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a Supreme Court case saying, they can't have that school. It's against the law. And Justice Scalia said, no, it is according to the law. And he was the only one who wanted to help. In the end, they changed the laws to make it okay. That's why there's no... No, not just because of him, because he lost. Everyone else voted against him. So Kiryas Yol actually lost that Supreme Court case, but he was the only one who was on their side. So anyway, and his idea was really what the Constitution really says. The others applied different things that the judges had decided earlier as opposed to what it originally meant. And he said, no, this is what it originally means, and that's what we should follow. Anyway, he passed away last year. So how do you pick someone for the Supreme Court? The Constitution says...
5 minutes
Well, the president picks someone with the advice and consent of the Senate. What does that mean? It means that the Senate has to, the president has to talk to the Senate and say, do you think this is a good person for the Supreme Court? And then the Supreme Court has to say yes or no.
And then wait
So
10 minutes with the president and they say
no. So anyway, no, wait, let me finish this because we're almost there. So when Justice Scalia passed away, President Obama was still the president. And he picked somebody. And the Senate said, I don't think it's a good idea. We don't give, our advice is, because their rule is they have to have the advice and consent. Our advice is that we shouldn't vote on this because we're voting for a new president. And so until we know who the next president is, this way the people have their voice to say who should be on the Supreme Court. And that's the way the people really vote on the Supreme Court, because they don't vote directly. It's almost like how the Senate used to be, that they vote for someone else, and those people who they vote for the Senate, and then now they change it that the people vote for the Senate. So the same thing, it used to be that the Supreme Court is still like that the President and the Senate pick the Supreme Court. And so once President Obama was not the president anymore, so now President Trump had to pick who does he think should be on the Supreme Court.
And then we waited 10 minutes for him.
No, that's when the president became the president.
No.
So anyway, let me finish this. So what happened? So President Trump said he promised the people when he was running, he said, I'm going to give you a list of people that I'm going to pick for the Supreme Court, and I'm only going to pick people from this list. And he picked someone, like he promised, from that list, who was very popular, who, when he became a federal judge, before he's on the Supreme Court, everybody voted for him. Republicans and Democrats both voted for him. Everybody voted for him. They said he's a very good person. He should be the judge.
Did you vote for him?
No, because the people don't vote for the judges. The Senate has to vote for the judges. So we vote for the senators, and then the president, and then they vote for the judges.
Wait.
Yeah. So what?
I thought that.
Because we don't vote for the judges.
I thought that didn't happen anymore.
No, the Senate doesn't happen anymore, but the judges still does. And the Senate used to be picked by the state legislatures, like the state equivalent. Well, they call the state Senate, and then what's like the House of Representatives in the state, like. Each state has something else. In New York, they call it the Assembly. But each state has their own system. But still today, we don't vote for the judges. The president picks a judge, and then the Senate votes for it. The congressmen don't vote for it in the House of Representatives. Only the senators vote for the judges. So what's going on now is it's like they're giving him a job interview. All the people we heard on the radio were senators and the judge that President Trump picked to be the next justice of the Supreme Court to fill the seat of Justice Scalia. So that's why you heard all these different people. All the people you heard were senators.
There were different voices.
Yeah, and some were Republicans and some were Democrats, and they all had their own ideas what they wanted to talk about. And we could listen to it on the radio to see how they're making their decisions. So I think that's really important in history, because we don't pick a new, we don't pick new people.
More important than listening to my story.
Well, when new people go in the Supreme Court, doesn't happen every day. It almost never happens. No, it only happens when because the Supreme Court is forever, until they die or until they quit. So it doesn't happen every day that someone should quit or die in the Supreme Court. So it's a big deal Yeah.
My first one is what if the president's father or mother is already the president, and the son or daughter became the president?
Well, that happened sometimes. But they weren't president right away. Like, it happened a few years later.
But why not like a queen and king?
Because that's the whole thing that we fought against. We made a revolution. We shouldn't have a queen and king. In fact, some people didn't want to have the Constitution because they didn't want a president.
And I have one more question.
Yeah. They wanted George Washington to be the king, and he said no. And you know where that happened? In Newburgh, where we saw his house.
I have really?
Yeah.
We want his house. I remember. I have one more question.
Yeah.
And what if the president...
Not at that time, not at that house, a different place in Newburgh, yeah.
What if the president quits? Can he still drive?
I don't know what happened with, because we only had one president who quit. You know who that was? It was Richard Nixon. But he almost went to jail. But also the president can say somebody who's going to be in a federal jail, a jail that belongs to the whole country, doesn't have to go to jail or could leave jail.
What
You know,
if they were thinking of that person who's going to be...
I'm pretty sure Richard Nixon still had to have the Secret Service protect him. It was interesting. I remember when Richard Nixon...
going to be the president.
Yeah.
And they thought it maybe to put him into jail, but I thought he became the president. Would they put him in jail or not?
Yeah, they would have to go through a whole process, but they could still put him in jail. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's possible.
Right. Could have a president in jail.
No, then he wouldn't be president anymore. The vice president would become president.
Really?
Yeah.
What's his name?
The vice president now is Mike Pence. All right, we're just about in time. So anyway, I don't know. That's just. I thought this was an interesting discussion.
I thought it was very, very long. Please like and subscribe.
So, I know. I thought it was interesting. We learned about civics. We learned about how, and that's what we're listening to on the radio. We were listening to how they how they became and that's what's going on now. They're discussing who's going to be the next Supreme Court justice.
Please like and subscribe if you want more videos. Bye!